Hi and welcome to Knowledge is Fun 2020. Remember, we have already completed two parts of the management of support services, institutions, and programs for the vulnerable sections of our society. In the first part, we dealt with children. In the second part, we talked about the youth. In this third part, we'll be dealing with the problems and the services provided to the elderly. So, services and the institutions, programs which are needed by the elderly, and the programs which are run, the various aspects involved in the management of such institutes, the knowledge base and skills required to manage such institutes and programs, finally, the career opportunities which are available to the youngsters or any person interested in this field. But what are senior citizens? In many countries, senior citizen is a person who is above 65 years of age. But do you know what is the age for senior citizens in our country? Remember, याद करो, try and remember. जब हम टिकट्स कराते हैं तो it's around after 60 years you get rebate in air tickets, flights or railway tickets. After it 60 years बैंक में जो rate of interest है वो भी बढ़ जाता है. So in India the senior citizens are people who are above 60 years of age, and there has been a very steady rise in the population of older persons in India, and India is only the second country in the world with the largest number of senior citizens, and 9% of the population in 2016 was of senior citizens, and it is increasing. Increase in life expectancy in 1947 was 20 years. So this is a major reason for the increase of senior citizens. 47 it was only 29 years, and in 2009 to 13 it was 69.3 for females and 65.8 years for males, around 2.5 times or 2.25 points. So the rise in life expectancy is very high. It results in higher number of older people. So aging has emerged as a major social challenge, and now it is very necessary to provide for the economic and health needs for the elderly. We have to create a social milieu which is sensitive towards the emotional needs of the elderly. Even after 60 years, they still live for around 10, 20 years now, and they are very healthy also. But why are elderly vulnerable? Why do we consider them vulnerable? Because increase in the number of people who are above 80 years of age is high. It is ever increasing. And when the person is living for so many years, after 60 years also, he needs to have some social security. Feminization of the elderly population, that is, the number of females, is increasing. And when the number of females is increasing, it is expected that it could even cross 55%. So, the feminization of elderly population, and women find it even harder to sustain themselves. Large percentage of the elderly population is below 630%, that is one third of the nation. One third of the population is under the poverty line. This we have covered in the first part of this series. Majority of the elderly are staying in rural areas, and because they are staying in rural areas, the service delivery becomes a challenge. To reach them becomes a challenge, and therefore their problems are very difficult to solve. Now, what are the basically the problems or challenges that we are talking about? The first is health. They are more vulnerable to diseases because of the decreased physiological reserves and the defense mechanisms. Their immunity goes down, their infection catch rate becomes very high. So, health is the first topic. And disabilities are also very common, like low vision, blindness, cataract. Cataract की वजह से often we have blindness, deafness, partial or complete deafness, loss of mobility because of stiffness in the joints, bone issues, and so they are unable to look after themselves. And when they are unable to look after themselves, they need somebody to look after them. So, what happens? The family life cycle, they are in a period when the children have moved away and they are all alone. This many a times they are in nuclear families, there is no time with the children, they have lack of time. So there is increasing feeling of loneliness, isolation, and a sense of being a financial burden on others. Most of the older people are financially dependent on the next generation. The people nowadays, the newer generation, it requires privacy, space, independence, and materialism is at a high because they are financially dependent on the younger generation. Often the younger generation fails to look after their needs and they are left to fend for themselves. The traditional joint families are breaking up, the nuclear families are emerging, and the traditional value system and the family system is on a decline. So when they need somebody to look after them, they are not able to find anybody, and they are unable to look after themselves. That is why they are very vulnerable. But the picture is not so gloomy always. Many elderly are happy also. They are enjoying, and they are experiencing freedom which they never had. So many people continue to live fulfilling lives. In many families, also, it's not that they don't have anybody to care. Elderly are all well respected and they continue to find fulfillment. And one very positive feature is the 60 years or more people, if they are economically active, they are more happy. They are happier. And it's often because they have been engaged in sectors where is no specific age of retirement. And when there is no specific age for retirement, they are financially independent. They are not dependent. And what is needed today is to recognize the elderly as the human resource which is very rich in experience and the residual capacities, and to make optimum use and benefit of their experience in the national development. They are a huge resource of knowledge. Their ability to lead healthy and fruitful lives should be ensured by the government. The government adopted the national policy for older people in 1999, and you must be knowing that now it's a crime not to look after your parents, and the parents also can get maintenance allowance from their children. There are many programs which are run for the elderly. You must be knowing that we also observe the World Senior Citizens Day. Government, non-government organizations, panchayati raj institutions, local bodies, state bodies, they have different programs for the elderly. These programs, they cater to the basic needs of the food, shelter, health care, especially for the destitute elderlies who have nobody to look after them. So the first important point is to cater to their basic needs, especially for destitute elderlies, and for this we need to have old age homes. Build, strengthen intergenerational relationships. The attention has to be paid to the younger generation, that they are more sensitive to the needs of the elderly, and training should be given to the caretakers. Encourage active and productive aging amongst the elderly, and the institutional and non institutional care services should be provided. Research, advocacy, and awareness building programs should be undertaken by the government or the non government organizations to promote self care, preventive health care, and disease management amongst the elderly. This is also very important. They need to be aware when they are young, that in so that they are able to save enough to maintain their financial independence when they grow up and are retired, have no permanent source of income. Respite care homes, continuous care homes for the people who are living in old age home, but requires continuous caring and nursing care because they are seriously ill. So we need to have special care homes, mobile Medicare units for the medical facilities to the elderly who are located in rural, isolated, and backward areas. Daycare centers are also very important for, especially for people who are suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia patients. Are you aware of Alzheimer's or dementia? It's a problem with the mental and the physical coordination of the body, loss of memory, and no control over the physical movements of the body. And so you need daycare centers where they could be taken care of if they don't have anybody to care at home. Helplines and counseling centers for older people so that they can share their anxieties and challenges. Medical health care and specialized care is also very important, which provides mental health care intervention because the working of the brain is also impacted. Disability and hearing aids or other such aids should be provided to the elderly. It could be a wheelchair, a stand for walking, anything. Physiotherapy clinics have to be opened, and the sensitization programs for children who are there in the school or colleges, they have to be sensitized toward the senior citizens. Now, what are the schemes which are run by the government? We'll be taking only a few. There are many more and they are on a rise also. National Age Old Pension Scheme, it's an old scheme, NOAPS, which is meant for destitute old people who are considered the people who are considered beneficiary as above 65 years of age, and they need to provide age and destitute status, that they have nobody to look after them, and then they can get the pension. Also, many ladies are also eligible for this. So, any person who is above 65 years of age. Then you have Pradhan Mantri Vay Vandana scheme. It is also a pension scheme for the elderly. National Program for Health Care of Elderly, NPHC, as it's very clear from the name, maintenance of overall health of the elderly. Varisht Medical Mediclaim policy. Obviously, it's an insurance policy which relates to the health related expenses of 60 years and old. The premium is very low and the provisions are more. Reverse mortgage scheme. What are reverse mortgage? Have any idea? Reverse mortgage means that the bank takes over, or it mortgages the house in which they are living if it is in their name, and against that they provide a loan of 60%. अब ये लोन सारा एक बार में नहीं देते, हर महीने they give certain amount to these elderly citizens which helps them to be financially independent. This is reverse mortgage of their homes. Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. This is a new scheme launched in 2018 by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and it covers many old people, 10 crore people belonging to poor and vulnerable families, and the coverage is around 5 lakhs per family. Okay, and finally it is Vaishresht Samman. It recognizes the contribution of the elderly in our society. So, any person who has achieved something, or the organization which is very sincerely involved in the helpage or helping the elders, they are eligible for Vaishresht Samman. Now, the training and knowledge which is required to work in this field for the youth, children, and the elderly, we'll be dealing with all of them together in the last video. The knowledge base and understanding for the requirements of the children, youth, and elderly. For this, you need to have an undergraduate program degree in BSc Home Science, and especially in family and community services, या फिर it could be a BSc program or BA program in social work or in any other social sciences. If you want to study further, post graduation, research, postdoctoral, it's all always open. Then open and distance learning, state open universities, IGNU, यहाँ से you can go in for such courses, or you can also enroll in for regular courses. Certificate programs in NGO management, it also enables you to get a job in this field, and diploma in youth developmental work. This is specially meant for youth. Now, career, इसमें क्या career बन सकता है? You can be in charge या manager in an already functioning program or institution, or you can initiate the setting up of such an organization or a program for the youth, children, or the elderly. To handle the various aspects like the registration of the organization, implementation of the program, improvement, which is based on the evaluation and feedback, you need to have various skills. Now, these skills could be the skills related to people, or the human resource management skills, or the administrative skills. These are also known as human resource management skills. Why do you need to manage people or the human resource? Because to run an organization, you have to interact with different people. They could be from the community, from the private sector, the officials in the government sector to pass on and implement your programs, or the people who are working in your own organization. And administration, आपको उसमें finances you have to deal with, you have to recruit different people in your firms. Now you have to take the building on the rent, the equipments which are required, the various other facilities which are available in the government. You have to maintain all the records, stocks. These are all the skills which are needed. I hope the topic you would have found it interesting and would have created some curiosity to work in this particular field. This is a very satisfying field where you are working for some other people who are vulnerable, who require your help. So, see you in the next video. Bye bye.